Alvaro's new boss felt threatened by the influence the veteran employee had on his fellow colleagues. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to never miss any of our exciting stories. The situation reached a climax when Alvaro, now close to retirement, was unexpectedly fired. However, fate had one last provocation in store when the two met at a restaurant. The boss's surprise was even greater when Alvaro's partner arrived. That afternoon, the corridors of the company echoed with heavy footsteps and forced smiles. It was the end of an era for the sales department of the electronics company, and everyone gathered in the conference room to say goodbye to Lorenzo, the leader who was retiring. Between warm hugs, sincere handshakes, and nostalgic smiles, Lorenzo approached Alvaro in a corner of the room. "You know, Alvaro, I mentioned your name to take my place, right?" he said, with the weight of farewell. "Yes, Lorenzo, I know," Alvaro replied. "I was offered the position, but I decided to turn it down. The time has come for me to slow down too. In a few months, it will be my turn to hang up my boots and retire." Lorenzo and Alvaro had been traveling companions since the company's inception. They had witnessed every stage of the company's growth, from the modest days in a small warehouse to its expansion into a vast space with meticulously organized departments. Now, nearing the end of their careers, they were respected and admired by their younger colleagues. In the days following Lorenzo's departure, Alvaro naturally found himself taking on a leadership role. He became the go-to person whenever a question arose or a colleague needed approval to proceed with a project. His accumulated wisdom and affable manner transformed him into a sort of beacon for the team. But this dynamic changed with the arrival of Ricardo, the new manager. Ricardo, a man in his 30s, had been selected from a wide range of candidates thanks to his impressive resume. "Good morning, everyone. I'm Ricardo, the new manager of this department," he announced with authority. "Under my leadership, some changes will be implemented, and I hope to be able to count on the cooperation of all of you." Despite his impressive qualifications, empathy was not one of his virtues. Employees continued to turn to Alvaro for questions and guidance, which deeply irritated Ricardo. Sensing that Alvaro was undermining his authority, he called him for a private meeting. "Alvaro, I noticed you've taken a leadership role on this team. You need to understand that I lead and manage this department," Ricardo stated with authority. "Ricardo, my colleagues look to me for my expertise. They trust me," Alvaro replied. "Maybe you should be more accessible." Richard interrupted abruptly. "I think our meeting is over," he declared, ending the conversation. In the days that followed, Ricardo took measures to limit Alvaro's influence. He transferred him to an isolated desk and removed him from responsibility for direct contact with clients. He also assigned an intern to accompany him in his daily activities. The young man with green hair and extravagant clothing showed no interest in the work. "Ricardo, I am concerned about the intern's ability to assimilate what I am teaching. I think we should consider another person," Alvaro expressed. "A true leader is able to lead any type of person," Ricardo replied firmly. If you like this story, like it. The future of a major contract hung over the relationship between Alvaro and Ricardo. "Ricardo, the contract with one of our clients is coming up for renewal. I've scheduled a meeting for tomorrow." Would you like to attend? Alvaro asked. I'll lead it. We won't need you, Ricardo replied. The next day, the meeting did not go well. Richard, without knowledge of the negotiation history, was lost. The intern searched desperately through the documents. In the end, the contract was not renewed. Ricardo pointed his finger at Alvaro. Alvaro, it's your fault. You are no longer capable of working in this company. You are fired. With resigned serenity, Alvaro gathered his things and left the company. 2 days later, Alvaro was in a restaurant waiting for his partner when Ricardo walked in. Unemployed people like you shouldn't be in a place like this, Ricardo scoffed. At that moment, a familiar figure approached, Mrs. Beatrice, the important client. Alvaro, how nice to see you. I trust only you to negotiate the contract, Beatrice greeted. Yes, Beatrice, I've worked enough, Alvaro replied, putting a hand on Ricardo's shoulder. During dinner, Ricardo observed Alvaro's ease. In the end, the contract was renewed. It seems like you saved my skin, Alvaro, Ricardo admitted. How about postponing your retirement and going back to work at the company? Okay, I accept, but on the condition that I don't have to teach any green-haired intern, Alvaro joked. This story teaches us that true leadership goes beyond titles and formal authority. A true leader is not defined only by the power he wields or the position he occupies, but by the ability to recognize and value the experience and wisdom of others. Alvaro, with years of experience and dedication, represents an invaluable asset to the company, a source of knowledge and stability that cannot be easily replaced. Ricardo, despite his qualifications and determination, initially failed to understand the importance of listening and learning from veterans like Alvaro. His arrogance and detached approach led him to make mistakes that could have been avoided if he had shown more humility and openness. Only through failure and subsequent reflection did Ricardo understand that to be a true leader, one must be willing to recognize the value of others, regardless of their position or age.